The tabloids called him the power of love and luxury. Ethan Madu, the 38-year-old billionaire real estate mogul behind Madisford Holdings, and his stunning wife, Zara, were the face of perfection. Their Banana Island mansion glittered with imported chandeliers and designer marble, the kind that whispered power with every reflection. To the public, they were untouchable. But behind the laughter and charity galas lay a growing storm. Ethan loved Zara deeply, yet he couldn't silence a nagging fear. Rumors had started, whispers from business rivals, jealous exes, and even his security aide, claiming that Zara was seeing another man whenever Ethan traveled for business. At first, he laughed it off. But one night, after a business dinner, he caught a glimpse of Zara on her phone. Her tone was soft, affectionate, not like when she spoke to him. The moment she saw him, she hung up and smiled like nothing happened. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The thought grew like a weed. What if she doesn't love me anymore? Then fate presented him an opportunity. A car accident. Nothing fatal, but enough to send him to the hospital. As he lay on the bed, pretending to sleep, he overheard two nurses gossiping, saying, "Some wives only stay until the money runs dry." That night, an idea was born, a dangerous test that would change his life forever. He would pretend to be paralyzed, unable to walk, move, or even feed himself. If Zara truly loved him, she would stay. If not, her betrayal would expose itself. 2 weeks later, Ethan returned home in a wheelchair, his face pale and his hands motionless. His doctor, paid handsomely for silence, declared that Ethan's nerves had suffered severe trauma. Only Tunde, his most trusted security aide, knew the truth. "No one must know," Ethan warned him. "Not even my mother. Not even my lawyer." Zara's reaction was everything Ethan hoped for. At first, she burst into tears, hugging him, vowing to stay by his side forever. For the first few days, she was a devoted wife. She fed him, read him the news, even massaged his hands at night. Ethan's heart softened. Maybe he had misjudged her. But soon, things changed. She started taking late-night calls on the balcony. Her phone was now password protected. She began dressing up more, even when she said she was just going to buy groceries. Ethan's suspicion returned, sharper than before. He instructed Tunde to install discreet cameras around the house, in the living room, by the staircase, even in the kitchen. Every night, Ethan watched the recordings in silence. Then one night, he saw it. Zara, on the phone, whispering, "I can't keep doing this. He doesn't suspect a thing yet. Just give me time." His chest tightened. Doesn't suspect a thing yet. His test had just begun, and it was already spiraling out of control. Ethan noticed a new visitor, a tall, well-dressed man named Derek, claiming to be Zara's childhood friend. He started coming every few days, usually when Ethan's therapist wasn't around. Zara said he was helping with a foundation project. But the way Derek looked at her, and the way she smiled back, sent fire through Ethan's veins. One afternoon, while Zara went upstairs, Derek leaned close to Ethan and said quietly, "You're a lucky man, Mr. Madu. Not everyone gets this kind of devotion." The words dripped with irony. Ethan wanted to punch him, but had to stay still. He clenched his jaw, every muscle screaming for truth. That night, he watched the security footage again. Zara and Derek were in the study. She handed him a brown envelope and whispered, "He can't know yet." Ethan's heart pounded. He zoomed in. It looked like documents. Property papers, bank transfers. The next morning, Zara acted as if nothing happened. She kissed his forehead, brought him breakfast, and smiled. He looked at her, pretending to be helpless, but inside, he was burning. "You'll show your true face soon enough," he thought. Days turned into weeks. Zara's patience started to wear thin. Ethan overheard her arguing with someone on the phone one night. Her voice broke. "You think it's easy watching him like this? I'm dying inside, too." It confused him. What did that mean? Was she in pain? Or guilt? Tunde, ever loyal, handed Ethan a small memory card from a house's security system. "Oga, I think Madame Day hides something for drawer under her dressing table." The next morning, When Zara left for her charity board meeting, Ethan wheeled himself to her room and used his trembling fingers to open the drawer. He found a second phone, locked, hidden beneath perfume boxes. With Tunde's help, they unlocked it. Dozens of messages filled the screen. Some were with a contact saved as D. But when Ethan read them, confusion struck. D, everything is ready. Just make sure he doesn't find out. Zara, he's been through too much already. I can't lose him again. D, you'll thank me when it's done. Lose me again. Ethan whispered. His chest tightened. What was she talking about? Had something happened in the past he didn't remember? For the first time since the fake paralysis began, Ethan felt genuine fear, not of betrayal, but of what he didn't know. Rain poured that night, pounding the mansion's glass walls like drums. Zara walked into the bedroom. Thinking Ethan was asleep, she sat beside him and began to cry softly. I know you can't hear me, she whispered, but I wish you'd wake up just once and tell me why you did it. Ethan's eyes opened slightly, careful not to move. I know everything, she said. The accident, the doctors, even your little cameras. Ethan froze. Zara continued, her voice breaking. You thought I wouldn't find out? I watched you pretend. I wanted to walk away so many times, but I stayed, hoping you'd trust me again. I only wanted to protect you. A flash of lightning lit the room, and for the first time, Ethan realized the test wasn't just about her. It was about him. He had built a trap that was now closing in on his own heart. Zara stood up, kissed his forehead, and whispered, I forgive you, Ethan, but tomorrow I'll be gone. Tears rolled down his cheeks as she walked away into the rain. The next morning, her side of the bed was empty, and her hidden phone was gone. When Ethan woke up the next morning, the mansion was quiet, too quiet. Zara's perfume still lingered in the air, but her wardrobe was half empty. Her driver, her phone, her handbag, gone. Tunde ran inside moments later. Oga, Madam's car no day gate again. Ethan's chest tightened. For a moment, he wanted to scream, but he remembered the act, the paralysis. If he stood now, everything would crumble. He told Tunde, let her go, for now. But inside, his mind was in chaos. Had she found out everything? Was she really gone for good? Later that night, his lawyer called. Sir, your wife just withdrew 45 million Nigerian nairas from your joint account. Ethan gritted his teeth. Betrayal stung sharper than any wound. He whispered to himself, so that's what it was all about. But deep down, another part of him, the one still in love, wanted to believe there was more. He decided to give it 2 days. If she didn't return, he'd reveal the truth to the world and end the game. By the second evening, Derek returned. He walked straight into the living room, bold, confident. I'm here to collect Zara's remaining belongings, he said. Ethan's hands trembled on the wheelchair. And who gave you permission to enter my home? Derek smirked. Your wife did. And don't act like you don't know why she left. Ethan's heart burned. He wanted to stand, to punch that smug smile off Derek's face, but he held himself back. When Derek left, Ethan called Tunde. Follow him, he ordered. I want to know where he goes, who he meets, and everything he does for the next 48 hours. That night, Tunde returned with photos, blurry but telling. Derek wasn't alone. He had met with Dr. Halima Okon, the neurologist who handled Ethan's supposed accident. Ethan's mind spiraled. Why would Zara's friend meet with my doctor? Something didn't add up. Maybe Zara hadn't run away. Maybe she was protecting something. He decided to break his silence. Ethan called Dr. Halima to his mansion. When she arrived, he spoke for the first time outside the script. Doctor, we both know my paralysis is fake. Tell me what Zara was doing with Derek. Halima hesitated, fear flashing in her eyes. Mr. Madu, I can't. Tell me, he barked. She finally exhaled. Zara came to me weeks ago. She found out about your plan. She begged me to play along. But she said if she didn't act fast, something terrible could happen. What do you mean? Ethan asked, confused. Halima handed him a sealed folder. Inside were medical scans, his scans. Those are from before your accident, she said. You had a minor brain clot forming. Zara wanted to protect you. She thought if she played along, she could monitor you closely without triggering another breakdown. Ethan froze. All this time, while he tested her loyalty, she'd been fighting for his life. Halima continued. She told me you'd never believe her if she tried to explain, that you needed to see it yourself. Ethan's world shifted. Guilt flooded him like fire. His test, his pride, had blinded him from the truth. The next morning, Ethan received a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice said softly, Sir, Mrs. Zara left something for you at the Oasis shelter for women in Yaba. She said you'd come when you're ready. Without hesitation, Ethan called Tunde, Take me there. When they arrived, the scent of disinfectant mixed with cooking smoke filled the air. Children ran around barefoot, laughing. A young volunteer recognized him immediately. Mr. Madu, this way, please. They entered a small office with Zara's handwriting on a white envelope. Inside was a letter. Ethan, I didn't marry you for your money. I married you because you made me feel safe. When you started doubting me, I didn't know how to fix it. The man you think is my lover, Derek, is a human rights lawyer. We've been setting up this shelter for abused women, many of them victims of paralysis scams and inheritance thefts. I wanted to surprise you on your birthday by naming it after your mother. But when I found out you were pretending, I broke. You wanted to test my love. I wanted to protect your name. So I walked away before your pride destroyed us both. Zara. Tears streamed down Ethan's face. The envelope also contained documents showing 45 million Nigerian nairas transferred not to a personal account, but to the foundation's trust fund. Everything he'd suspected had been wrong. Ethan returned home in silence. The mansion that once gleamed now felt like a prison of guilt. He couldn't stop replaying her voice. I forgive you, but tomorrow I'll be gone. That night, he opened security recordings again. This time, he didn't look for betrayal. He looked for love. He saw the night Zara stayed awake watching him breathe, the time she wiped his sweat, the moment she kissed his forehead and whispered prayers. He broke down completely. He picked up his phone and dialed her number. It rang once, twice, then disconnected. Minutes later, Tunde rushed in, his face pale. Olga, bad news. Madam Zara, she collapsed for Yaba shelter. DEM say she day hospital now. Ethan's world spun. He forgot his own act, leapt from the wheelchair, and shouted, Get the car! Tunde froze. But Olga, you... Forget that! Ethan yelled, already halfway to the door. For the first time, he didn't care who saw him walk. His secret didn't matter anymore. Only Zara did. As the car sped toward St. Nicholas Hospital through the rain-drenched streets of Lagos, Ethan whispered through tears, Please, God, don't let it be too late. The neon hospital sign smeared across wet glass as Tunde swung the SUV into Street Nicholas. Ethan was out of the car before the guard reached the door, his legs stiff from months of pretending, his lungs burning with fear. Nurses glanced up, frowning as a paralyzed billionaire hurried past wheelchairs and four poles. A junior nurse gasped, recognizing him, a phone already half-raised. Zara lay pale under the bluish ward lights, an oxygen cannula hooked beneath her nose. Dr. Halima met Ethan at the doorway, voice low and scolding. Sit. Breathe. She collapsed from exhaustion, dehydration, and severe anemia. Stress has been eating her alive. She paused. We also ran a scan to rule out anything else. She's early pregnant. Ethan. About 6 weeks. The world steadied, then tilted. Pregnant. His chest warmed and cracked at the same time. Their baby. Conceived before the fake paralysis, before the lies became a habit. He gripped the bed rail, tears jetting to the surface. Is she? Okay, he whispered. She will be, if the stress ends, Halima said, and if you stop making enemies with your pride. Zara's eyelids fluttered. Her gaze landed on Ethan, standing, and in a single heartbeat the machines and whispers and wet city noise vanished. So, she said, voice roar, you finally stood up. The words cut deeper than any blade. I'm sorry, Ethan said. Save it, she murmured, eyes glistening. I begged you to trust me. You chose cameras over conversation, lawyers over love. She turned her face to the wall. The foundation was for women who survived men like you, manipulative, frightened, wealthy enough to weaponize fear. He swallowed. I know about the trust fund. I went to the shelter. I read your letter. He reached for her hand. She didn't move. Z, there's more. You're pregnant. A tremor passed through her shoulders. Yes, she said softly. I was going to tell you on your birthday with a shelter launch in your mother's name. She finally faced him, but I saw you choose suspicion. I couldn't raise a child in a house wide like a crime scene. A nurse coughed in the doorway, eyes darting between them. That small sound broke the fragile moment and reminded Ethan how public hospitals can be. He looked around. 2 interns lingered, whispering. One already had a phone out. Tunde's hand landed on his shoulder. Olga, we need private room. They moved Zara, security sealing the corridor. As the door clicked shut, Ethan sank into a chair, the beeping heart monitor metronoming his guilt. I'll fix this, he promised, voice shaking. Not with money, with truth. Zara closed her eyes, tears catching the ward light. Then start by telling the world you could walk all along. Outside, a nurse tapped send. A grainy clip of Ethan striding through triage began its sprint across Lagos. I know, Mama, he said, closing his eyes. I will make it right. He hung up and dialed Derek. The line picked with professional calm. Morning, Mr. Madu. You're a lawyer, Ethan said, voice tight. Tell me how to apologize without making it worse. Derek exhaled. You don't manage an apology. You deliver it and accept the bill. Start with disabled communities, then the public, then your wife. And the shelter, you sign it over, Derek said. Completely. No strings. The door opened. Dr. Helima stepped in, eyes battle-weary. The medical council wants to see me, she said. They believe I conspired. I'll stand with you, Ethan said. I forced a lie. You tried to contain its damage. He returned to the hospital that night. Rain combed the city. Thunder twitched along the lagoon. In Zara's room, the lights were low. He spoke quietly. Tomorrow, I'm calling a press conference. I'll tell them everything. She watched him for a long time. Everything includes why, she said. Yes, he replied. The insecurity, the whispers I let move in and eat. He reached for a folder. And this, the shelter deed, in your name alone. He placed a second envelope beside it, and a trust for the women, 500 million Nigerian nairas to start. A board of women leaders you'll pick. I'm not on it. Zara didn't touch the papers. You think money is the apology. I think money is the seat. The apology is how I sit in it. She almost smiled. Almost. Then sit quietly, she said, and let me sleep. For once. As he stepped into the corridor, he saw the reporter from City Watch at the nurse's station, animated, insistent. Tunde intercepted him. Press day everywhere. Olga, someday downstairs. We need a plan. Ethan nodded. We have one, he said. We tell them the truth before the lie eats anyone else. Far off, lightning stitched the clouds. In his chest, something unclenched for the first time in months. By morning, the video was everywhere. Miracle at St. Nicholas, paralyzed billionaire walks. The hashtags were cruel. Disability advocates raged. Investors panicked. Bloggers dragged his name like a wet rag across tile floors. In the boardroom at Mattersfield Holdings, silent men checked their watches as if time could outrun scandal. Ethan faced the screen as pundits debated whether he should be charged with insurance fraud. Never mind that he'd paid privately. A director cleared his throat. We need a narrative, he said. A medical miscommunication, perhaps. You believed you were paralyzed. The doctor. No, Ethan said, surprising himself with how firm it sounded. We need the truth. On cue, his mother called. Her voice was equal parts prayer and lightning. Chukwu Gozi, Ethan. What have you done? People are laughing in the market. Your father's name. The conference room at Eco Hotel pulsed with camera lights and unforgiving curiosity. Ethan stood at the podium without makeup, without the usual armor of gloss. He wore a simple black suit and a face that finally fit him. "Good afternoon," he began. "My name is Ethan Madu. I lied." No spin. No preamble. The room leaned in. "I lied to my family, my staff, the public, and most painfully, to my wife. I pretended to be paralyzed to test her love. I told myself it was wisdom. It was fair." He gripped the podium. "To every person living with paralysis or disability, I am sorry. I trivialize your reality. That's unforgivable." He inhaled, steadying. "Today, I'm funding a long-term rehabilitation program in partnership with Lagos State University Teaching Hospital and private clinics across the city. Independent oversight will publish every naira." A slide flicked. 500 million Nigerian naira seed. "We'll also build a community center for accessibility training in tech, named for no one. Because this isn't about legacy. It's about service." Questions flew. Were doctors complicit? Did you collect any insurance? Is your marriage over? Are you truly remorseful or just managing optics? Ethan answered each plainly. Halima sat in the front row. He defended her sharply. "She warned me. I ignored her." A blogger pressed on the hospital video. "Yes, that was me," he said. "I ran to my wife. I will run again." The last question cut through the clatter. "Why didn't you trust your wife?" His eyes glossed. "Because I didn't trust myself," he said. "Power fools you into believing you can manufacture certainty. Love doesn't work like contracts." He stepped back. "If she chooses to leave me, I will understand." He walked off to a storm of divided applause and venomous tweets. Outside, a crowd had gathered. Protesters in wheelchairs beside quiet supporters holding handmade signs. Accountability is a verb. He shook hands. He listened. He took the insults without flinching, not because he enjoyed punishment, but because he finally understood the consequences. Back at the hospital, he found Derek in the corridor, sleeves rolled, eyes soft. "That was the right way," Derek said. "Hard, but right." Ethan nodded. "How is she?" "Sleeping," Derek replied. "The press will still try to get to her. We've arranged a private discharge tomorrow, a safe house for a week. She needs peace." Ethan stared at the closed door. "Tell her I won't call. I'll wait, and I'll work." As he turned to leave, a young man in a wheelchair stopped him. "I lost my legs on the third mainland," he said bluntly. "Your stunt vexed me, but that center you promised, I'll hold you to it." "Please," Ethan said, meeting his eyes. "Hold me to everything." Scandal moves fast, but rebuilding crawls. Days became a disciplined blur. Site visits to rehab facilities, midnight meetings with advocates, training Mattisfield staff on accessibility, signing the shelter deed in Zara's name with a board of fierce women, doctors, survivors, community leaders. He didn't speak at the signing. He just passed the pen. At home, the cameras came down. He let Tunde smash them himself, one after another, the tiny lenses snapping like brittle bones. "Good riddance," Tunde muttered. "House fit and breathe again." Ethan returned to Dr. Halima, not as patient but as penitent. She reviewed his old scans. "The clot risk is real," she said. "Stress, sleep deprivation, you are playing with fire." He submitted to real therapy this time. Physiotherapy for the stiffness he'd ironically owned, counseling for the insecurity he'd fed, blood thinners to quiet the storm in his head. Social media is still a bit hard. Memes cast him as a Nollywood villain. Season 1, the miracle walker. He collected each jab like a tax he owed. Some nights, he drove to Yaba and parked near the shelter just to watch lights humming across the courtyard. Women laughed there. Children chased a plastic ball. He kept his distance. The gift belonged to them, and to Zara, now. He wrote letters he didn't send. He wrote promises he did. Open hiring at Mattisfield for people with disabilities. Ramps and lifts on all new builds. A clause in every contractor agreement penalizing inaccessibility. He fired a senior VP who called the changes PR crumbs. The VP's exit interview birthed a rumor that Ethan had gone soft. Good, Ethan thought. Soft as human. One evening, he found his mother making pepper soup in his kitchen, the aroma home and rebuke at once. "You shamed us," she said, tasting and adjusting salt. "And you are still my son." She set a bowl before him. "Are you going to fight for your marriage or only your image?" "I'm fighting for the person I promised to be," he said. "If the marriage returns, it should meet that man." She studied him. "Finally," she murmured. "Your father chased me with apologies that sounded like budgets. I wanted onions and honesty. Your wife is like me, stubborn, tender. Do the work, then wait." He did. He attended group therapy in a quiet Yaba hall, anonymous, learning how control can masquerade as care. He listened to a mechanic describe the panic that made him track his girlfriend's phone until love fled. He recognized himself and felt both horror and relief. Weeks passed. The media cooled. The rehab bill broke ground. CityWatch ran a measured piece, from performance to policy. Nothing gushing. Honest. Watchful. The kind of coverage a country gives a man learning to walk properly. On a breezy Saturday, the shelter courtyard filled with women in bright gels and children in mismatched sneakers. No red carpet. Just a hand-painted banner. Oasis. A place to breathe. Derek handed Ethan a small box. Inside lay 2 brass keys engraved with a date and a short line. For the door you couldn't open with money. "Oh, words," Derek said quietly. "She asked me to give them if, and only if, your actions match your press conference for 30 days. Ethan swallowed, the metal warm in his palm. "Where is she?" "Inside," Derek said. "Not for you. For them. She'll see you if she chooses." He nodded. He didn't hunt for her. He moved through the crowd, greeting quietly, eyes level, hands unhurried. At the front, he placed an envelope on the table. "Final deed transfer," he told the board chair. "The land behind the shelter too. Build a clinic. A school. Anything you want." He turned to go. "Ethan." The voice slid under his ribs. Zara stood a few steps away, wrapped in a simple anchor dress, face bare, eyes unreadable. She looked different. Stronger. Freer. Maybe both of them were. He didn't speak first. That, finally, he had learned. She nodded at the small box. "Keys." "Yes," he said. "To the storage hall in the admin wing. You decide who holds them. Not me." A slow exhale. She studied him as if measuring a house for cracks. "And your company?" "Ramps on every site. Sign. Fund locked for rehab. Independent audits. I'm not naming anything after myself." He hesitated. "I also redrafted my will. The shelter is beneficiary of 5% of Mattersford profits, permanently. If I break that promise, the board can sue tomorrow." Silence stretched, not hostile, not warm, simply honest. She touched her abdomen, a gesture both protective and declarative. "I'm keeping our baby," she said. "Not for you. For me. For the world I'm building." Tears flashed, but he kept his voice steady. "I'll support every decision you make. If that means co-parenting as friends, I'll be the best friend you've ever had. If that means distance, I'll send the support plan through Derek and stay away." Something softened behind her eyes. "You always had the right words," she said. "Now you have some right actions too. Keep going." He nodded, stepping back. "One request," he said. "Not for me, for the women. Let Mattersford's Training Academy host free construction apprenticeships for Oasis residents. Skills that pay. Dignity that lasts." She considered, then extended her hand. They shook, a business-clean gesture charged with vowels only the skin could translate. "Send the proposal," she said. "The board will decide." He smiled, small, real. "Thank you." As he toned, a little girl ran up and pressed a paper into his palm, a crayon drawing of a man standing beside a woman with a round belly, both smiling under a crooked sun. No cameras. The child had written in wobbly letters. Ethan laughed through a tear. "Deal," he said. He walked to the gate, keys heavy in his pocket, the future light on his shoulders because at last it wasn't balanced on a lie. Outside, The city throbbed, dandos coughing, hawkers singing, lagoon wind rustling palms. He didn't know whether it would end in reconciliation or an entirely new kind of love. But for once, he was willing to discover instead of direct. Behind him, the oasis hummed. Ahead, a press request buzzed his phone. He let it die. The only headline he wanted now was a quiet one Zara had already written with her life. Build where it hurts. Then keep building. 3 months after the oasis opening, Lagos finally stopped laughing and started watching. Madisfoy's new projects trended for the right reasons. Ramps, wider lifts, sign language on-site interpreters. Even the harshest critics admitted the billionaire who once faked paralysis now funded the biggest accessibility program in West Africa. But Ethan's private life stayed silent. Every morning he scrolled headlines. Madu redeems himself. Zara Madu, the woman who walked away. He smiled at the second one. It was true. She had walked away, but she hadn't closed the door. One Saturday, a brown envelope arrived. No sender. Inside, prenatal scan prints. On the back, Zara had written, "Heard your rehab wing opened. Our baby kicked." Nothing else. Ethan stared until the ink blurred. He whispered a prayer, folded the pictures, and placed them beside the first keys she'd given him. That night, he returned to therapy not for his body but for his mind. Trust, his counselor said, isn't rebuilt with flowers. It's rebuilt with patterns. So he built patterns. Sunrise walks without an entourage, gratitude calls to staff, monthly anonymous donations to the shelter that no one traced back. In every interview, he refused to dramatize. The hero of this story is my wife, he said. I was just a lesson. Across town, Zara watched one such clip on her tablet. For the first time in months, she smiled without irony. Not everyone loved his redemption. At a tense Madisfoy board meeting, CFO Leakin slammed spreadsheets onto glass. We're bleeding. You're giving land away, hiring slow workers, spending billions on ramps. Investors will revolt. Ethan's voice stayed calm. If morality cost profit, then profit was too cheap. Leakin sneered. You're not a preacher. You're a businessman. And your little scandal already halved our market cap. Either cut charity budgets or step aside. The room went cold. For a moment, Ethan saw the old version of himself, calculating, proud, ruthless. Then he said simply, I'll step aside. Gasps! He slid a resignation letter across the table. I built the Madisfoy to prove my power. Now let it prove purpose. Within an hour, news outlets screamed, Ethan Madu resigns. Stockholders panicked, then steadied when he announced a new non-profit venture, the Able Africa Initiative. That night, Zara watched the press conference alone. When a reporter asked, why walk away from billions? Ethan had smiled slightly, because you can't buy peace from yourself. She whispered to her unborn child, maybe he's finally learning. 2 weeks later, Lagos weather turned moody, dark clouds swallowing Eco Bridge, thunder rolling like judgment. Zara was 8 months pregnant when contractions hit early. Derek drove like a madman through traffic. Rain drowned sirens. At the same moment, Ethan was live on Arise TV discussing disability rights. A producer rushed over, whispering urgently. His face changed. He removed his MIC mid-sentence. Cameras caught it. My wife's in labor. He ran. Again. But this time the world didn't mock him. It cheered. Hours later, inside Lagoon Hospital, cries filled the hall. A nurse emerged, smiling. Baby boy. Healthy. Mother is stable. Ethan exhaled until his knees buckled. When he entered the ward, Zara was half asleep, exhausted but radiant. She lifted the baby. He looks like you, she whispered. Ethan grinned through tears. God help him. They laughed softly, first shared laughter since the disaster. He reached for her hand. I know forgiveness isn't instant, he said. But if our son ever asks what love is, tell him it's the courage to rebuild. Zara looked down at the infant's tiny fingers clutching haze. We'll rebuild, she murmured. Slowly. Outside, lightning split the sky, but this time it sounded like applause. 2 months later, Mother and child came home, not to Banana Island's mansion, but to a modest duplex in Lekki. Zara chose it. Less marble, more meaning. Neighbors watched, whispering, as the infamous couple carried groceries together like ordinary people. Ethan named the boy Zion, symbol of grace after exile. He kept his promise of distance until Zara invited him to dinner for Zion's sake. Over jollof and candlelight, silence did what words couldn't. She finally said, "I never hated you, Ethan. I hated the fear you put between us." "And I hated the pride that let it grow," he answered. Zara nodded toward the baby monitor, blinking softly. "He'll wake soon. Stay if you like." That night, Ethan slept on the couch, the first honest rest in years. When dawn broke, sunlight painted the walls gold. Zion's cry cut through the stillness. Ethan rose, lifted him carefully, whispering, "I'll never fake weakness again." Zara watched from the hallway, eyes misted. For the first time, she believed him. A year later, Lagos buzzed with a new kind of story. The Able Africa Center opened downtown, ramps spiraling like art, classrooms humming with wheelchairs and laughter. Ethan stood on stage beside Zara, holding little Zion. Behind them, a banner read, "From Error to Empathy." Reporters begged for drama, but Ethan gave only gratitude. "To every person I hurt, thank you for holding me accountable. To every woman who taught me strength, thank you for your patience. And to my wife, who turned my tests into my testimony, thank you for not letting my failure define our son's future." Applause thundered. Zara leaned close, whispering, "You finally found the right script." He smiled, "Because I stopped writing alone." As dusk fell, they walked through the courtyard where a mural showed a man in a wheelchair shaking hands with a woman opening a door, painted by survivors from the shelter. Zion toddled ahead, giggling. Ethan lifted him high, the child's laughter echoing over the city's heartbeat. No cameras followed them home. No fake paralysis. No hidden tests. Just a man who had once lost everything to pride and found redemption in humility.